I'm going to roll right into the market update, and I'm going to talk about a very tragic event that happened locally for us, the Camp Fire. I know we had a couple of people visiting from Sacramento. Is anyone else from up by Yuba County or up in that area? Or had kids who had to stay home from school because it was just too bad of air to breathe. Yeah. So a couple of statistics are, this was the deadliest fire in the U.S. since 1918. So these numbers were pulled from probably around Monday. Shoot. Okay. Okay, great. So 84 civilian casualties, 15 injured civilians and firefighters, 993 people missing, and 153,000 acres burnt, 17,000 structures burnt. Estimated damage, this was from Monday. I think the figures have increased now anywhere up to $15 billion. And this is a picture of the campfire from space. So, and before and after of the Golden Gate Bridge when we had all the smoke. This was started under a PG&E power line, then a huge wind caused it to spread really fast. And PG&E has been sued by multiple fire victims, and not just from the Camp Fire, but across like the McCourtney fire, the Lobo fires, the Mendocino fires, the Giant Tubs fire that happened in Santa Rosa. So PG&E is in big trouble. And this right here is PG&E's public stock. It took a massive nosedive last week and fell. It drew $3.1 billion of its available cash from its revolving credit lines. PG&E's credit rating is getting worsening. Shares dropped 64.6% from the campfires. And the next day over here, there's a little bump up after November 15th. The stocks jumped up when the California Public Utilities Commission president, Michael Picker, said he declared that regulators would take significant actions to avoid PG&E going bankrupt. And a little history about PG&E is, well, a couple things can happen if it goes bankrupt, first of all. It's the largest utility business in the U.S. Currently services 2/3 of all of California, which is over 5.2 million households, and it has a market cap of over $13 billion. PG&E has filed a Chapter 11 bankruptcy in 2011, in the past. What happened was the state of California spent somewhere between $40 and $45 billion to bail PG&E out, and PG&E paid $10 billion to creditors. What had happened was in 1998, the California Public Utilities Commission had regulated public utilities to provide as much power to all of its service residents at a capped amount. And so when there were those droughts in 2001, PG&E gets most of its power from dams that it owns, and that's the cheapest kind of energy that they have. No rain, no water in the dams. So PG&E had to start borrowing more expensive energy from out-of-state vendors who took advantage and raised prices above, but because PG&E was capped at how much they could sell unlimited amounts of electricity to its customers, they ended up going bankrupt. So, and in the past, what happened was that the cost did get passed on to California residents. The California Public Utilities Commission ended up, removing that cap, raising prices, and ultimately the residents paid that price. So, if PG&E hopefully not goes bankrupt again, that could significantly affect California residents. Okay, does anyone know who won Amazon Headquarters 2? We've been following this for like a year. Yeah, Long Island, New York, and Crystal City, which is pretty much Washington, D.C., Virginia. And we have a little satellite headquarters in Nashville, Tennessee. Now, this is the funny part. Do you guys know what people offered Amazon for the second headquarters? Right. It's okay. So let's talk about a few. Atlanta, not only did they offer $2 billion of incentives, they offered an Amazon Georgia Academy, free parking and Amazon lounge at the Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. And they were going to add an Amazon train car to all of its trains to help Amazon transport their stuff faster. Boston. Lots of university there, so they offered to build a tech talent pipeline. They will give Amazon employees 0% interest loans to purchase homes, qualified ones, not everybody. Yeah. Chicago offered over $2 billion of incentives. You can Google this later, but they submitted a Star Trek themed narrated proposal video because Bezos is a big Star Trek fan and it's quite funny to watch. Dallas offered over $600 million of incentives and an Amazon U, or Amazon University. Montgomery offered over $6 billion of tax incentives, plus on top of that, an additional $2 billion of infrastructure and transportation improvements. So, oh, and Toronto offered no incentives, but they thought it's funny. Okay, now why is this wild? So first of all, these deals actually take resources from cities and states because, okay, American cities and states spend $90 billion in tax breaks and grants already every year to encourage companies to move among states or to keep them in their current state. Cities and states cannot print money or run steep deficits like our federal government. And this is significant because, like I said earlier, these deals actually take away from resources that would have been spent on schools, on infrastructure, on police, on prisons, and other things like that. And historically, if you look at some big companies like Boeing or Nike or Ford and General Motors, they've been offered $1 billion to move or keep their headquarters into a state. Montgomery offered like $6 billion plus an extra $2 billion. So, oh, and New Jersey offered a little over $7 billion, which would make Amazon the largest corporate giveaway in U.S. history. Now, why is this significant? Okay, so Amazon's real win is, first of all, 238 cities applied for Amazon's headquarters. It's no coincidence, maybe in my opinion, that Amazon's headquarters happen to be located in the cultural capital and the actual capital of our country. A lot of the cities that applied didn't have a chance, but Amazon has way more detailed demographic data, not just the regular demographic data that's available to the public, but like how much behind the curtains are cities willing to offer? What are they planning in the future for their economic development? How much can they even offer in tax incentives, and are they willing to offer? What is their future transportation and infrastructure plans? What is their current and future use of land? Where can Amazon optimally build more stores, warehouses, and data centers? Like, they already tracked everything. We have like 4 Alexas at our house. They know where our work is and where they're each located, and all of our habits. We just put one in the bathroom, yeah. Like, they know all our habits. There are no secrets from Alexa, okay? Amazon has a ton of data. Not only do they know all of our shopping behavior, consumer behavior, but they know all the behind-the-scenes data behind major cities in this country. Okay. More on that in a future market update. So last piece of news I want to cover is realty shares. So since 2014, there have been a lot of real estate crowdfunding sites. Realty shares is one of them. They're technology companies that help you invest money into real estate investments. So realty shares started in 2013. It was one of the largest and oldest crowdfunding platforms for real estate. And you could invest starting with as little as $5K. They serve accredited investors only. And they ended up raising $63 million in VC funds. But the reason for discontinuing new business is that they can't afford to secure additional capital to fund additional investor acquisition. Meaning that their investor acquisition happens from funding they're getting outside, not from the revenue their business is generating. 25% of their staff was already laid off when I put together this presentation on Monday. They continue to lay off the majority of their staff, and they'll be not making any new investments, but they'll be servicing their existing $400,000 of assets under management. $400 million dollars assets. And my takeaway from this is there's a big issue when you hear getting investors was capital intensive. We can't afford new business because getting new business was too expensive. And being in the Bay Area, this may be everyday news for you. This may be normal for you. But the best source of capital is revenue. Too many entrepreneurs are focused on raising money because money is so easy to raise, now at least, rather than focusing on building a sound business. So when you're vetting a source to invest with, this is something you definitely want to look at.